What's up, everybody? It's Ben from Evolve Sport and Nutrition. Welcome to August. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to this. Today, we are talking about healthy eating on a budget, specifically aimed towards a subset of the population that they go to university, they go for school. It is aimed towards that because I do talk to and work with a lot of varsity athletes, a lot of just university students in general around that age. And I've been doing this for the past 10 years or so. So I want to make sure that I just get a stream out there to see if this is going to work. And then all of August is going to be is a student survival nutrition month. I think that's what I called it. I don't know. I gotta speak to marketing, which is me in a different hat. But yeah, we're talking about healthy eating on a budget today, or just like meeting nutritional needs on a budget. Not necessarily healthy, because when you're strapped for cash, the term health is much more malleable. In general, the term health is very, very malleable in general, but this is geared towards a lot of university students, and the reason why is because there's a lot of different challenges that university students experience nowadays. What I'm seeing out of a lot of my university students, the ones that are going to uni or college or something like that, post-secondary education away from home, that this is the first time probably in their life that they've had to actually do grocery shopping, cooking, all these kind of different life skills, because they've been very, very fortunate to grow up in a household where they've had that kind of stuff provided. So that's what we're doing today. Oh, by the way, I'm super proud of this, but have you checked out the new stream? Check this out. You see that? On the sides? Full edges. No more white bar. No more white bars on the side. That's friggin' awesome. I finally figured out how to do it. I'm very happy and proud of myself, so yay me. But yes, getting back to this, we are talking about the student survival guide from a healthy budget, healthy eating standpoint for students, because there's a lot of different strategies I take a look at and a lot of different strategies I talk with my clients. And so there's a lot of information to cover today. There's not necessarily going to be a lot of cooking today, because I got to bring it down a notch a little bit from a cooking standpoint to make sure everyone's doing a little bit better today. So we're gonna actually cook. Wait, where is it? Where did I put that thing? Hold on. Oh, this is also one of my excuses to eat one of my favorite things for dinner, which is ramen noodles. So this is one of my favorite bands. I only know what it's called in Chinese, which is chutzi yatting. I don't know what that means. I know how to pronounce it, but I don't know what it means. It's the Nissan brand of ramen, and I'm cooking this. So that doesn't take a lot of prep work at all, because of course we're vibing with the student stuff today. So that's gonna be fun. Today is more of a talking stream more than anything else, and that is going to allow us to basically really, really dig into the information and all that kind of stuff, even though on stream I really, really freestyle a lot of the things I talk about, but that is first and foremost what I'm doing. So anyways, today we are talking about healthy eating on a budget, and there's a lot of different strategies that we can employ for these students. And like I said, for a lot of students, I find that this is the first time ever that they've had to cook for themselves, especially a lot of the guys that I work with, right? And it's a great time to learn a lot of good life skills and still have fallbacks and all that kind of stuff. And there are nuances to the student life, like, for example, first year students, if you're coming from out of town. So for example, I went to the university formerly known as Ryerson, which is now Toronto Metropolitan University, because Ryerson are racist. He not cool. So, we are doing that. They renamed it Toronto Metropolitan University, which I'm really happy about. But either way, They, when I was there, I was lucky enough to be living in Toronto. Still do live in Toronto and all that kind of stuff. But was lucky enough to be able to do a lot of cost-effective things, and I was definitely cooking for myself much earlier because I worked in the kitchen throughout university. Throughout high school, I was working in a professional kitchen doing French and Italian food. So I knew how to cook already, and my mom taught me how to cook. But as I'm seeing the students and the clients that I'm working with, more and more don't know how to cook. Now, there's a ton of different reasons for that. Cooking is very hard. It's time consuming. People want to be good at it, and they don't want to take the time to be good at it. When you get a kitchen job, you actually have the ability to have people teach you properly, have the volume to actually work on your knife skills and all that kind of stuff. So I was very fortunate to have that experience going into university. But of course, that's not everyone, right? So we want to take a look at different strategies on how we can get people to cook properly and save money at the same time, because it's very important towards their nutrition. Why is it important? Well, largely because the better the nutritional status, the better your grades are going to be. I'm not saying it's a direct one-to-one kind of thing, but what I am saying is that research has shown that kids that have better nutritional status, eat breakfast before school, before classes and all that kind of stuff, they do better on their grades and their learning. Now, there are a lot of different variables. Yes, kids that get breakfast before school typically come from a higher socioeconomic status, which of course has different types of advantages and all that kind of stuff. And there are different kind of strategies that we can employ in how to do that. But of course, not everyone comes from a high socioeconomic status kind of perspective. And right now, one of the biggest challenges is that we still are, despite whether or not you're a high socioeconomic status, I'm sure you've noticed the price gouging from grocery stores like Loblaws and all that kind of stuff that have made fundamentally grocery shopping and nutrition and health a lot more difficult, right? So I actually have a lot more students now that are like, "Oh, I'm intermittent fasting." I'm like, "No, you're not, bro. You're just skipping breakfast and calling it intermittent fasting. That's not a real thing." So I mean, it's clever that they're like, "Oh, I'm intermittent fasting," but I'm like, let's be honest here. You're just skipping breakfast. You're not eating breakfast. What are we gonna do there? We're going to talk about different breakfast options. We're going to talk about different kind of things. We're going to talk about how to make the most out of your nutrition, even if you have something like a meal plan. And the reason why I brought up the Ryerson kind of thing, Toronto Metropolitan University, was that if you went to TMU, and for most colleges and universities in Canada, if you're from out of town, for the first year, they kind of lock you into residency, and in TMU, they lock you into what they call a meal plan card, right? So the meal plan is basically like, here's the X amount of money that you have to spend on your food from the cafeteria and all that kind of stuff. You can still make the most out of your nutrition from that. I've definitely worked with enough varsity athletes to know how to do that, so we're going to talk about that. And then what kind of things are important. And for those of you that are not in first year, which requires that meal, the meal plans and all that kind of stuff, you might be in residency for second, third, fourth, or how many years you have. But eventually, at some point, especially for my friends that went to Western or Queens or stuff like that, their second and third year, they started to have to like get into a house together. They had roommates, they were living in condos, they were living in houses, splitting the rent like 5 different ways, that kind of stuff, throwing parties. The real university experience, the one that you don't get in nutrition school, because nutrition school is lame. So what they had to do was they had to figure out their nutrition in second year. So eventually, mostly, you're going to have to be able to cook for yourself, provide nutrition for yourself, feed yourself. And yes, nowadays things are getting a little bit easier. Like we have things like DoorDash, we have Uber Eats, we have Factor, we have the meal kits and all that kind of stuff. But when you add it all together, at the end of the day, it's always going to be cheaper for you to be able to cook for yourself. Now, are these options good for short-term things? Absolutely. But when you're doing stuff reactively, it's never really done with a long-term intention. Like you're never really planning forward, planning for your health. You're just kind of reacting in the moment, right? It's like, oh, I'm hungry. I'm going to order a pizza. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And watch how fast the dollars add up and how fast the budget blows out, right? That's a big concern. And so, like, even during university, a lot of my friends who were in Queens and Western and all that kind of stuff, they were asking me for tips on how to save money, how to eat properly, and all that kind of stuff. Basically, how to adult. University or college is a great time for you to start learning how to adult, so to speak. And it's very important that we kind of give you the guideline to do so. The first thing to do is down here on the bottom, learn to budget. I will tell you right now, I am not the best person at all to be talking about budgeting. No, sir. I am not the right person to talk about that. And the reason why is because I have only started getting my finances in order for the last few years, and it is not great for you to be taking nutrition or financial advice from me. There are a ton of great financial advice YouTube channels out there that are more for daily living kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not promoting crypto or anything like that. From the financial kind of YouTube side of things, there are a lot of videos that show you how to budget, that show you how much to calculate how much money you should have for your grocery bills, for your living expenses, for all that kind of stuff. This is not the channel that we're going to do it. I'm just emphasizing the need to learn how to budget, because you will be a lot better from a health nutrition standpoint if you learn the financial literacy also, right? Because financial health is a type of health that we all need to consider. So learn how to budget. Once you've learned how to budget, you now know how much money you have available for groceries, and that lets you actually thrive a little bit better. You start to understand what you're working with, how often to do things, and all that kind of stuff. But first and foremost, you have to learn how to budget the amount of money that you have. Now, if you're in residency with a meal plan, then of course the budget's already spent. You need to be aware of, okay, I can only get X amount of meals per day and all that kind of stuff. And this is the reality of, like, for a lot of people, like mid-semester, they would start running low on their cards and their meal plan cards and all that kind of stuff, and then they would have to learn how to do this anyways. So even if you have a meal plan, you have to learn how to budget. You have to factor that in. A lot of people have now apps that they're tracking their spending on their meal plans and all that kind of stuff on their apps, so that they can figure out, like, okay, this is how much time I have, how much money I have, yada yada, all that kind of stuff. So stay on top of your meal plan with budgets, and then also recognize that there's some things that you don't need from the university cafeteria on your meal plan, right? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We're going to talk about cost-effective strategies for breakfast. We're going to talk about cost-effective strategies for snacks, all that kind of stuff. And of course, how to comply with a lot of dorm room standards, because a lot of dorm rooms will not let you have like gas stoves or anything like that, where things or appliances like the plug-in stove tops are really good. Those are electrical and all that kind of stuff. Still needs a lot of cleaning, but those are really good too. Your dorm room may or may not have a little mini fridge or something like that. That's something that you want to keep in mind too, whether or not you can buy fresh fruits and vegetables, which is not something I actually recommend for budget reasons. Then there are devices that basically do it all. So air fryers right now, they're decently cheap. The technology is really good. They cook up food really well, and they actually are really good investments. So maybe get yourself an air fryer before you go into residency, or if you're in your own kind of living roommate scenario with someone, an air fryer might be a good investment before you go to class. The other thing too that's really good that I find really helpful is an Instant Pot. Instant pots to me are really fantastic because if you don't know how to cook, you want a safe way of doing it. Instant pot will do it. There's a ton of different ways that you can do that there. So spend your money on those kind of things because a lot of people will spend their money on knives or like cutting boards or stuff like that. I'm like, as much as you need those, yeah, but I will be perfectly honest with you. You don't need a good set of knives. You just need some scissors. For the majority of cooking, you could just get away with it with scissors, or you can get something like a mandolin. Something like this, where you could just put in all your foods here, and then you just kind of chop, 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 chop. Makes everything a lot easier. It's a lot more accessible for people with different abilities, like disabilities and all that kind of stuff. And it provides precise, accurate chops. So something like this, or a pair of scissors to kind of get you cooking, is going to be a lot better than actually getting yourself a fully stocked kitchen with like the knives I have and stuff like that, right? You don't need that because a set of good knives will cost you a lot of money. And if you don't know what you're doing with those knives, you might ruin them in general too, right? So think about stuff like this where you can do a lot of cutting with this. But you need to learn how to budget, and you need to learn how to budget well. That is the first tip that we'll talk about, because once you learn how to budget, you can start going to the second tip, which is, of course, at the bottom, meal planning. Now, why is meal planning important? Meal planning is important because it gets you to consider all the different things that you need to consider to feed yourself, right? Number one is what is your culinary ability? Like, what can you cook? If you don't know how to cook, if this is new to you, all that kind of stuff, you might rely a lot more on foods like this at first, ramen noodles. Now, you might be surprised to see that I have ramen noodles myself, and I'm going to eat it tonight for dinner, but also that I'm recommending it. Why am I recommending it? These are damn cheap. These are damn tasty, they're shelf stable, and it's just nice and easy and accessible. All you really need is boiling water. Like, you can have a friggin' electric kettle like this, and you can be able to prepare a thing of instant noodles. Now, do I recommend cup noodles over something like this? No, absolutely not. For cup noodles, unit price, way more expensive, not as versatile. You can't do as much with it. So having a small pot or just something like this, throwing this in a bowl with hot water, pouring this over, you'll be good to go from an instant noodle standpoint. I do not recommend craft dinner. Craft dinner is a very, very popular item for a lot of people, but I'll be perfectly honest with you. When you buy craft dinner, you're buying, the majority of everything is the packaging, right? Per unit cost, if you were to buy a whole ton of pasta, like dried pasta while it's on sale, like occasionally they'll have like 99 cents for a giant bag. That's all you really need because, believe it or not, you can get the cheese powder wholesale. And this is what I have right here. This is the mac and cheese powder. This is from Bulk Barn. Of course, if you're Canadian, you will know where Bulk Barn is, but you can buy the actual cheese powder in bulk for much, much cheaper. So I would recommend people do that, and then boil the pasta, throw this in, which of course you can adjust anyways, and you can put a little bit of butter and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you really want to be ghetto, which is what I'm recommending for a lot of people, you can take those butter packets from the university cafeteria as well in order to make your craft dinner. But I do not recommend people buy craft dinner. I think it's a waste of money because if you buy instant noodles, like, you can get like 2 or 3 of these for $1, depending on where you go and what brands you get, right? This is just, again, one of my favorite brands. With the craft dinner stuff, I've seen it go up to like $2, $3 per pack of craft dinner. You're just buying the name. So go to Bulk Barn, get yourself the craft powder cheese if that's what you like, and that will be nice and easy and fast to be able to make. And you can do that with an Instant Pot as well. And like I said, the butter, which is the more important part, you can get that from a cafeteria dorm room and from the cafeteria kitchen, and just grab their butter when it's like at breakfast or something like that. Take it back to your dorm room and just like put it into your stuff. So that's a nice little tip if you want to be efficient, frugal, not ghetto. I use the term ghetto because I am ghetto, but I'm not calling anyone ghetto. So that is something that you can do. The meal planning stuff, it comes down to culinary ability. You don't want to be trying to cook recipes that you're unfamiliar with. You want to stay within your lane. Why? Because if you're prepping something that you have no business prepping, let's say filet mignon or lobster or something like that, and you have no idea how to cook it, you're just throwing away money. Now, I used lobster and filet mignon as an example, but it's a good example. It makes the point, right? So you might want to stick to, for example, one of my favorite things, especially if you're not good at preparing meats, but the Costco rotisserie chicken, which is going to make a comeback later today in the video, because this rotisserie chicken is per dollar, it's one of the best things you can ever get. It's already prepared, it tastes delicious, and of course if you throw like a good amount of chicken in with this, then you got yourself a friggin' meal, right? So Costco is something we'll talk about in a little bit more. So that's a big thing to consider for yourself, is stay within your meal planning lane. Because when you know what you can do from a meal planning standpoint, it makes grocery shopping that much easier. You know what ingredients to get, you know where you're going, you know what you're buying. So do the meal planning. And for a lot of students over the year between graduation and starting post-secondary, I tell them take this summer while you're at home to just screw around in your parents' kitchen, watch YouTube videos on cooking, on all that kind of stuff, and you know, like watch this stream to learn how to cook, because those are excellent strategies on getting you to understand how to cook faster, and how to get more confident with what you're doing, right? A lot of them, I will say, and this is why today I'm not doing a lot of cooking, is because a lot of them are fluff. They really are. They're like, hey, look how bougie I could be. Look how fancy I could be. And I'm like, yeah, I do that too. I do that too to flex, but that's for entertainment purposes. If you're doing it for education, learn what you're good at and stay in that lane. So for example, chili is one of my favorite recipes because it's so accessible to a lot of people. It's so freezer friendly, it's fridge friendly, it's leftover friendly, and you can cook large batches of it, especially if you have something like an Instant Pot, right? It's charged with a lot of nutritious foods like beans. You've got a lot of nutrition in there, and it can go very well, especially on like a cold day in the winter, when winter eventually gets here. So learn what you're good at, meal plan, and stay in your lane. That way you can grocery shop much better. It makes your grocery list much shorter. It works out much better that way if you learn how to meal plan. Occasionally go outside and try to push the envelope a little bit more, but if you know what you're capable of cooking, then meal planning becomes that much easier. So try to stay within your lane, stick to what you're comfortable with. If it's just like, hey, my breakfasts are like bagels with cream cheese, so be it. It doesn't matter. It'll work for you because it just needs to get done sometimes. Is that the most nutritious breakfast? No. But is it better than eating nothing? Absolutely. So one of the biggest things we have to keep in mind is meal planning. The other thing that is very important for meal planning is, of course, recognizing where you can get a lot of nutrition in. Now, breakfast time, I personally think that it's really, you have a lot of good options there, right? Overnight oats are really good, and the nice and easy oats are nice and cheap. You just like do your thing with overnight oats, chia seeds, or anything like that. My biggest recommendation for overnight oats is to add a scoop of protein powder in there. Now, why protein powder? Protein powder, A, is going to be a lot of protein for very inexpensive compared to when you match gram per gram of protein to things like beef, pork, eggs, or chicken or something like that, it's going to be a lot less inexpensive per unit cost. Now, when I say per unit cost, that's recognizing like, oh, it cost X amount per gram of protein, per this, per this, per this. And that's why I tell people, get a thing of protein powder. Because if you're going to do overnight oats, one of my biggest critiques about overnight oats is that there's not enough protein in it. That's not an issue if you combine that with protein powder. You just kind of mix up the protein powder, throw it in with the overnight oats, let that form, and you've got, depending on the brand of protein powder you have, 25 to 35 grams of protein along with the oatmeal that you have in the morning. It's nice and easy. Grab it out of your fridge. It's very dorm room friendly too. As much as I joke about this, you could use it. You could do it with Tupperware or a mason jar or something like that. Put it into your fridge overnight. Boom, you've got a really, really, really good breakfast. And of course, you can combine that with very inexpensive fruits. Let's say apples, or a big bag of apples, or you can have a big bag or like a bundle of bananas that you just eat throughout the week. Now, one of the other things to keep in mind too is I do not recommend university students spend money on fresh fruits or vegetables. I just don't. Now, the reason why, it's not that fresh fruits and vegetables are bad, it's just that I don't think university students are going to eat them fast enough and have a good enough culinary preparation technique in order to do it. My biggest recommendation is your fruits and vegetables should be frozen, or you should intend to freeze them. So for example, if it's like peach season or something like that, and you buy a whole bunch of peaches for a really inexpensive price, you're either committing to eating all those peaches, or you prep them up, you cut them up, and then you freeze them, you put them in a Ziploc bag, you freeze them, and then you get to use them all out, right? Because later on, there's a little segment I talk about reducing food waste. That's one of the strategies, is buy in bulk and then freeze what you can in order to do that. Now, as much as I love fruits, I don't eat fruits fast enough or frequently enough to be able to do it. There's occasions where it's like, oh, cherries are in season. I freaking love cherries. Let's go eat a ton of cherries, and I will do something like that, right? But that's not the everyday kind of scenario. The everyday kind of scenario is that everything from a fresh fruit standpoint or fresh vegetable standpoint is getting much, much more expensive and has the likelihood of going bad very, very quickly. So buy frozen fruits and vegetables, because even though the per unit cost may be more, I tell people all the time, with fresh fruits and vegetables, there's less prep work involved. You can just go straight from the freezer towards what you're cooking if you learn how to use it properly, which there will be more videos on this channel about fast, easy strategies and recipes that you can learn how to cook and all that kind of stuff. But fresh fruits and vegetables frozen fruits and vegetables can go directly from the freezer to whatever it is you're cooking. Now, in that scenario, your overnight oats, let's say it's done overnight, you throw in the frozen fruits in there with it. So let's say I have some frozen mangoes, frozen berries work really, really well. If you just throw it in frozen to your overnight oats, what will happen is they'll be thawed properly the next day. You'll have a very nutritious, very tasty overnight oat recipe that you can have for breakfast, right? That is something that I do recommend, and just stay on top of cleaning the Tupperware, because dirty Tupperware is gross. So don't do that to yourself. So I'm a little all over the place right now, but it gets back to the meal planning. The other thing you can do with that kind of stuff too is if you have a lot of frozen fruits and all that kind of stuff for your breakfast, you could just make a friggin' smoothie, right? You could just take a like a magic bullet, just blend up everything, take that to class, drink it with a scoop of protein powder in there. That's a lot of good protein early on in the morning, because I do highly, highly recommend everyone try to get at least 20 to 30 grams of protein in the morning at their breakfast, no matter what, right? So again, overnight oats, chia seeds, all those kind of things are good and healthy as long as you're hitting the protein target, which of course, let's be honest here, you're not hitting that target with just oats alone. So add a scoop of protein powder in, for the overnight oats, and that'll be really, really good. It gets back to the meal planning because, of course, having the blender, it's a dummy proof kind of thing in the sense where, okay, I just could put these frozen fruits and this protein powder together with this water. I'm going to blend it up, and that'll be my breakfast smoothie. Good stuff. It works because it's really, really fast. Your roommate might hate you because you're using the blender in the morning, and a lot of university students don't like to wake up early in the morning. So you might want to blend that overnight, keep it in the fridge, grab and go, especially if you have a morning lecture or anything like that, right? It prevents you from actually having to clean too many things. Like, for example, if you are cooking a proper breakfast, which is great, you're now adding time onto everything. So this all goes back to meal planning, knowing what you can do and what you can't do. Because, for example, if you're not that confident cooking, then, okay, well, lunch becomes pretty easy. It becomes deli meats and sandwiches and a serving of fruit. Like, really easy stuff. Just go buy some deli meats. Just go buy some bread. It'll last you the full week. All that kind of stuff. And then just you're asking that point about condiments, what your spreads you're putting on the thing. Who cares about that, right? But either way, you have a lunch, and that's a really good thing, because especially if you have a meal card and you're stretching your budget, always just get dinner to be the meal plan stuff if you're stretching that. Because if you can make the breakfast, like I said, the breakfast smoothie or the overnight oats with the protein powder, that's one meal you're not spending at the cafeteria. The second meal, the lunch, you can buy like a bagel, a roll of bagels. You can buy the breads and all that kind of stuff, and be able to put the deli meats on, and boom, there's your lunch, right? Then all you really need to do is spend money on the dinner, which is usually when people are tired and don't want to cook anyways. So that's my big tip for people living with meal plan cards in residency and have to stretch that budget to the end of the year. So keep that in mind. Breakfast and lunch are the easiest meals for people that don't know how to cook. You just need to know how to prepare a sandwich, which is, not hard whatsoever and pretty straightforward. So there that is. The other thing, let's get to grocery shopping tips. Okay, so we talked a lot about meal planning already, and that's more about staying within your lane, about your culinary ability, but also guiding your grocery shopping kind of stuff. For a lot of you, grocery shopping may be a brand new topic for you to even consider a brand new adventure. So what I want you to do is always make sure that you're never going to the grocery store hungry. You will always, from a behavioral, emotional standpoint, react when you're going to the grocery store hungry. My advice to people is eat your breakfast, go to the grocery store where everything is nice and early, so you're not dealing with a lot of lines and all that kind of stuff. If you go to the grocery store at nighttime, let's say about like in the late afternoon around 5 o'clock, a lot of people end up going to the grocery store around then. Don't go then, because it's just going to be annoying. It's going to be really challenging to do your grocery shopping properly, and you end up just buying things you don't need. And this is all about staying on budget, right? See the first point that I made, make yourself a budget. So when you do grocery shopping, always recognize that you cannot go to the grocery store and make good decisions when you're hungry. You're going to make decisions that are immediate. So, okay, I am going to buy the instant made, the already prepared pizza or something like that, the hot food table, which is not a bad thing. You can have a lot of good, nutritious, healthy options. But what I'm saying is you're likely to buy the option that's going to satisfy that hunger immediately, and that may or may not be within your budget. So go to the grocery store having eaten something immediately after a meal. That way you can actually exercise and get some movement in there, because walking after a meal reduces blood sugars and all that kind of stuff. It reduces blood sugar spikes, right? So let's say you were to go grocery shopping after breakfast, you are able to reduce blood sugar spikes, get some movement in, get productive and all that kind of stuff. consider that. It's really, really good. I know that at TMU there was always that Metro that was by that building. I can't remember which building it was. It was by the Rogers building and all that kind of stuff. If you went at the end of classes, it was just jam packed, and I was just constantly annoyed, right? And I would only go there if I didn't have enough food for what I was doing that day, which is going to class, going to the gym, all that kind of stuff, long stuff. I like I said, luckily enough, I lived in Toronto while going to TMU or Ryerson at the time, and I didn't have to do, I got to do a lot of cooking at home and got to have a fully stocked kitchen and all that kind of stuff. So I was very, very lucky. But my friends in residency, not so much. So the grocery shopping tips. Do not go hungry. Just don't do it. It's a bad idea. The second thing you need to do is have a grocery list. All right? Having a grocery list lets you stay on budget much, much easier if you are coupon savvy or sales savvy or all that kind of stuff. Plan out how you're going to spend your money. You're always going to need some carbs. You're always going to need some protein. You're always going to need some sort of vegetable, right? Look at what's available in your fridge. If you're like in a roommate scenario living off campus, if you're living on campus, it's a totally different thing. You have to look at it from a different perspective, right? If you're living on campus, there's a lot of different residency dorm rules, what kind of food you can have, all that kind of stuff. In which case, okay, look for the non-perishable items like tuna, canned. I just got this today. It's not like a good option for like budget, but like I got it, which is canned crab. I'm actually kind of excited to do this with like sushi or something like that. But make use of these kind of things. Like canned tuna tins are great for snacking purposes. Like we have these cloverleaf guys that are like, okay, this is an individual snack tin size serving of tuna, right? Really, really good. But it's good for dorm rooms that, you know, you're not allowed to cook in or anything like that. So keep that in mind because you can just snack on that with some crackers or something like that. It'll be really, really good. It's a nice serving of protein. Then you can combine it with other things too. Or you can use it in a different kind of dish. Let's say you chop up some frozen vegetables, defrost them, throw in the tuna, mix it all up, and then throw it into a wrap, like a tortilla if you're tired of bread, or just slap it on bread for your lunch. That works too, right? So it works out really, really well if you do that kind of stuff. But always have a list, and this making a list is a lot easier if you know what you're capable of from a culinary standpoint. This is why I tell people don't buy fresh fruits and vegetables when they're in university as well, or if they're on a budget, because you just simply don't know if you're going to be able to eat it all. So for example, if you're like, oh, I'm really good, I bought fresh kale, I bought fresh peaches, and they're organic, and they're all this, and by day 3 they're like spoiled. That's a little bit silly, because one of the biggest grocery shopping tips I can give you is try to make it so that you only go to the grocery store once per week. Now, why is that? Going to the grocery store once per week forces you to make decisions, to plan ahead. So you're meal prepping, planning, all that kind of stuff, doing the life skills that we were talking about. But also that you're not tempted to make random purchases. Let's say you do go to the grocery store hungry. It's late at night. You don't have any food left or anything like that. You go to the grocery store hungry. You buy something that you didn't want to buy. Well, if you only go to the grocery store once per week, you're a lot less likely to do that multiple times per week, right? So only try to aim to go to the grocery store once per week. And let's be honest, if you're going to the grocery store that much, ain't nobody got time for that. So, you know, use your time a little bit better, like from a time budget standpoint. That's what I'll say is go to the grocery store once per week. That's a grocery shopping tip. Now, there used to be old school grocery shopping tips where it's like shop the perimeter of the store and then go up and down the aisles. That's not going to apply to you. It's not, because grocery stores have now changed their layout quite well, and they know this kind of stuff. Plus, depending on your living situation or your cooking situation, the majority of the foods that you need are in the aisles, where if you're like me and have ADHD, clearly, you'll get distracted by so many different things. There's so many different like psychological tricks that grocery stores use to try to get you to buy stuff, right? So if you go in there with a grocery list, you're more likely to stay on budget. You're more likely to do you're more likely to make it much more efficient, and you're much able to get through there. Now, where you shop is going to depend on the availability of your immediate region. If you're in Toronto, like me, then you're very lucky. You have a lot of different options at hand. But if you're in a small town, let's say you're in Western or you're in Kitchener or anything like that, doing grocery shopping, you're more limited to what's available to you, right? So that makes things a little bit easier because you're like, oh, there's only one or two grocery stores in the area. That makes it very easy. Stick on budget and all that kind of stuff. So go grocery shopping with a list. Do not go hungry, and try to avoid buying fresh fruits and vegetables to stay on budget, because if you buy frozen vegetables, guess what? That can last a long time. They're already frozen. And I'll tell you one thing from a nutrition standpoint. Frozen vegetables retain the majority of their nutrients because the way they're harvested is they're flash frozen, and then they're packaged immediately. Like very quick succession. They'll be flash frozen within a few hours of being harvested, to be perfectly honest with you. So the great thing about that is if they're packaged within a few hours of being harvested, then the flash freezing actually retains a lot of their nutrition. And depending on what you cook, that retains a lot of the nutrition too. The reality is that a lot of nutrient loss is actually more due to time degradation than anything else. So I'll give you an example. Oranges are a great example. Let's say they are Florida oranges. They are picked, then they are sorted, then they are transported, and then they are sitting on the grocery store shelf for who knows how long before you will buy it. Then you will bring it back home. Then you will probably wait a few days before you actually eat it. Now, a lot of the issues there end up being that a lot of the nutrition's already kind of, from a time degradation standpoint, going once the fruit's been picked and harvested, right? So for vegetables, let's say you have a whole bunch of kale. The wilting of the kale, a lot of the time they start losing a lot of the nutrition already. So that's why I tell people, I'm like, fresh fruits and vegetables are not it, especially if you're not good with culinary preparation skills, because it's easier to cook fresh frozen fruits and vegetables, or use frozen fruits and vegetables. They're already prepped up, they're already peeled. Like the frozen mango I have, yeah, it's frozen mango. It's not sweet. It's not anything like that. But I don't have to peel it. I don't have to deal with the seed. I don't have to deal with all that kind of crap. It just comes in a nice bag for me to be able to use for whatever purpose. For smoothies, for just eating by itself, or overnight oats, whatever we have there. Much easier. So avoid buying fresh produce if possible, and just buy stuff that's shelf stable. That'll help out much better for you in that kind of situation. Things like canned tomatoes are going to be a lot better, more friendly towards a lower budget individual than, let's say, fresh tomatoes will be. And again, that's just based on time and preparation ability, right? This is what we have to consider right now. I'm not saying that fresh fruits and vegetables are not good. I'm just saying from a student's perspective, when we're trying to save time, when we're looking at maybe not the best cooks out there, then these things are shortcuts to make things much easier, right? We also want to avoid convenience type things. So convenience type things will be like, I don't know if I have. Oh, I do have some. Hold on. Something convenience based will be something like this. A pre-prepared spicy butter chicken sauce. This is because if you end up cooking the spicy butter chicken yourself with the ingredients that it needs, it's actually going to be a lot cheaper than having this sauce already prepared and then putting on something. But again, culinary capability. The best way to say this is for students, if you were to have ground beef, some onions, and then some pasta, then you've got yourself spaghetti and meat sauce. Boom. Nice and easy. Just throw it all in there, cook it all at once, just don't burn it. You're good, right? So grocery shopping tips, make sure you take advantage of these kind of things, and typically just avoid the fresh fruits and vegetables. Not really going to be worth it. All right. So put that away. I gotta use that, by the way, sometime soon. All right. So those are some grocery shopping tips. And like I said, only go once per week. Go with a list. Go with your budget. Make sure you stay on top of all those different things, and it'll be much, much better for you from a healthy grocery shopping standpoint. Oh, and don't ever go when you're hungry. Budget-friendly superfoods. Now, the term superfood, it's a marketing term. It is. In this situation, I'm using it to be what kind of foods can you consider that give you multiple purposes, multiple nutrients, and that are easily prepared, right? Stuff like eggs, beans, lentils, legumes. These are great, great, great foods to get you a lot of nutrition in a very easy kind of way. Now, with that being said, you still need to know how to cook with beans, lentils, and legumes in order to make sure of that kind of thing, which is, again, why I love chili so much, because it's just like, throw it all in, you're good kind of deal, right? But then there are other superfoods or foods that have a lot of nutrition and very, very little cost to ratio. One of those foods is kimchi. Kimchi is one of my favorite things to get people to buy when they're bad at preparing vegetables. The reason why is because kimchi, being a pickled, preserved kind of vegetable, it's got a lot of flavor. All right, it's got a lot of flavor. So if you're bad at cooking, throw kimchi in something, and you're going to get a lot of amazing, amazing Korean flavors. And by the way, Korean food, by a recent study coming out of the UK, was found out to be one of the least expensive meals and culinary styles to prepare. So if you're like really down with flavors and all that kind of stuff, learn to cook a lot of Korean food. It's a lot of very, very good inexpensive types of cooking, right? For kimchi, I get people to buy this if they're bad with fresh vegetables, because the kimchi is a vegetable, has a lot of nutrition in it, a lot of pre and probiotics for your gut health. There are a lot of different types of kimchis out there. For people that don't like spice, then there are mild kimchis where it's like a lot lower on the spice, but the idea of a pickled vegetable still applies very, very well, right? You'll get probiotics, prebiotics, all that kind of stuff, and their shelf life is much, much longer. So I'll give you another example. I, myself, do not buy peppers. I buy red preserved peppers like this. Now, the reason why is because if you look at how many peppers, specifically red peppers, are in this jar, it is insane compared to fresh red peppers. You know, like in grocery stores, you'll have like green peppers, yellow peppers, red peppers, and all that kind of stuff. Green peppers technically shouldn't exist. It's just an unripe pepper. But if you look at the red peppers, usually it's $1 more per pound compared to green. Now, I will tell you right now, green peppers have a lot of nutrition in them. Don't get me wrong, they do. But the red peppers have much, much more nutrition in them. The unfortunate issue is if you're not good at cooking fresh peppers and all that kind of stuff, and you would end up eating them like a little dip kind of thing with hummus, which is really, really good. But think of the cost of one red pepper compared to this jar. This jar is, I think I bought it for about $10. But this thing, because the peppers are pickled, you have all that nutrition within each one of these, and it's already flavored really, really well. So you throw this into a pasta dish and it tastes incredible, right? So try to find these kind of products as much as possible to replace your fresh fruit and vegetable intake, because like me, ADHD, I will forget that I have vegetables available to me. I will forget and they will go bad and I'll be like, damn, I'm wasting money. So with this, it doesn't usually happen. So because they last for so long in their pickle water and all that kind of stuff, keep that in mind. These are great strategies to save money and still get a lot of vegetables in and have to cut down on cooking time, to be perfectly honest. Because like this is already done. You can eat this right away. Like it's really good. So keep these kind of products in mind for your. So of course you'd have stuff like that. Then you'd have kimchi. You'd have a lot of other. A lot of like Korean fermented and preserved foods like radish, and you'd have like seaweed. Oh, I talked about this in the past. Seaweed salad, one of my favorite things to get from Costco because it tastes just the same as if you go to sushi and you get like the wakame salad. It's the exact same thing. It tastes so good and you get so much of it. It's a great way to get vegetables. This will come back a little bit later when I cook this for dinner. Keep that in mind. The other thing you want to do too is budget-friendly superfoods. So there's that. There's also, I talked about beans, lentils, and legumes. There's also another superfood here that has a lot of protein in it, and that's something called textured vegetable protein. I don't think I have any textured vegetable protein right now, but it's a soy product that you can prepare the same way you would prepare beans, lentils, or legumes, and it gives you a ton of protein. And that, again, like the cheese powder, that textured vegetable protein is available at your bulk barns. So go to Bulk Barn, cut down on your waste, buy stuff wholesale. You can adjust accordingly to stay on budget a little bit better. And the great thing about Bulk Barns too, if you have a Bulk Barn near you, is they have this reusable container program, right? You can just use like reusable containers, things like pre-used jars or Tupperware containers or anything like that, where you can just bring it in, you can get it weighed out at the beginning of your Bulk Barn shopping experience, fill that container up, and then they will give you a discount on everything. So a nice cost-saving effective strategy. Like if I ever have to top up that jar of cheese powder, I'm going to go to a Bulk Barn, I'm going to get that weighed, I'm just going to put all the cheese I need in there, and then the powdered cheese, because I love trashy things. I really do. I love trashy things, and KD is one of those things. So that's a nice way of saving a little bit of extra money that way too, right? So go to the Bulk Barn, get yourself some textured vegetable protein. It adds a ton of protein to everything you're cooking, and you know, like I said, prepare the exact same way as beans, lentils, and legumes. If you're making chili, throw some textured vegetable protein in there. You won't even be able to tell it's there, and your protein content's going to really skyrocket. Now, that's really great because then you can buy smaller portions of the meat, like let's say lean beef or anything like that, and then you could be able to use it. Now, on the meat side of things, it's a lot better to buy products like this. And so I really like Costco because I could get products like ground pork. This is a whole tube of this is like 5 pounds for like $15 or something like that, and then you also have like pork tenderloin, which is a lot of meat, and it's very inexpensive. And the thing I like about it is that you can cut it up, freeze a whole bunch of it, thaw it out the next week, and you don't have to get more meat and all that kind of stuff. So if you have the ability to go to a Costco nearby, you have the ability to get that rotisserie chicken. Again, big fan favorite thing of mine. You have the ability to get this, as well as other things for very, very low cost, like eggs. So for proteins, all that kind of stuff, try to get the family size pack. And if you're not going to be able to use that all, freeze half of it in a Ziploc bag or a Tupperware or something like that. Thaw it out, because you have to reduce on food waste in order to save money. We're going to talk more on reducing food waste in a little bit, but that is one of the best strategies that we can talk about, is how to make bigger cuts of meat last longer, right? So buy family food packs, freeze what you're going to use, and not, because earlier today, I bought this whole thing of chicken drumsticks. Now, what I'm going to do is take half of it, freeze it, and then the other half, I'm going to marinate it for whatever it is I'm going to use to cook it. The reason why I like chicken drumsticks is A, dark meat. If you come by here, I love dark meat. Cooking these up, and by the way, this was on sale too. So the listing price here is $20.75. There was an additional $2.50 savings on it. So this came down to about $17 for all these drumsticks. Great price. Great price. So freeze half of what you don't need, then use the other half and stretch that out for the entire week. There's a lot of great easy recipes out there, like soy sauce chicken, which I'm gonna have to make a video about. That is really, really good to be able to take this, marinate it, cook it down in a way that's really, really nice and easy. But stuff like this with meats, buy in bulk, keep a good list in inventory before you go grocery shopping, but keep these kind of things in mind, the budget-friendly superfoods. Oh. All right. So that stuff, I have to put this back in the freezer. Give me 1 minute. Alright, so budget-friendly superfoods. Kimchi, fire-roasted red peppers jarred up, pickled foods, all that kind of stuff. They last long from a shelf life standpoint. They're really, really good. And then there's also this kind of stuff, too. Now, this is dependent on your flavors and your textures and all that kind of stuff. But this, because I'm Chinese, this is what we call preserved or pickled mustard greens. Very, very, very pickled cabbage kind of thing, or mustard greens is what they call it. Great way to throw this into foods. It's a lot of distinct flavor, though, by the way, so you gotta really love this flavor. But great way of getting vegetables in there. And, of course, by the way, while talking about vegetables, then we also have, from the Asian side of things, shiitake mushrooms. So a thing of dried shiitake mushrooms per unit has so much more mushroom than, let's say, a fresh pack of mushrooms like mini Bella mushrooms, right? This was, I think, $9, because I do like fresh mushrooms. But realistically, when you're cooking Asian food in particular, which is one of the best food styles to cook, shiitake mushrooms are usually what you're using anyways. So all you gotta really do is rehydrate these, use these, cook with them. They've got a lot of flavor in them, a lot of good taste, and like they last long because they're dehydrated, right? I have that jar and this jar filled with them. I'm not gonna run out of shiitake mushrooms for a while, so keep that in mind. If you like different cultural foods and have different taste for these kind of things, you want to buy different kind of foods that have stability, shelf life stability, and are budget friendly as well, right? So budget friendly superfoods include a lot of textured vegetable protein, beans, lentils, legumes, the foods that we were talking about, the kimchi, pickled radishes, all that kind of stuff. These are excellent foods for you to choose. If this is brand new to you, right? They have a lot of nutrition benefits. They have a lot of fiber, for example, pre and probiotics. Really tasty stuff. A lot for you to consider there. Again, it's not that I'm advocating against fresh fruits and vegetables. It's just that when you consider the cost of fresh fruits and vegetables and how fast it goes bad compared to everything that I just showed you, that makes much more sense. It's tasty right off the bat, less food preparation, more time for you to study or do other university student kind of things. I don't know, but it's just, here are some great ways to eat well and stay on budget. That's all I'm doing today. So last one is now batch cooking, meal prep. Batch cooking or meal prep is one of those things where if you're good at it, you save a lot of time and a lot of energy. So, for example, something like rice or pasta, you can cook a lot of that and then stretch that out throughout the week. If you know how to reheat it, you plan it out really well and all that kind of stuff, because the from an economy of time standpoint, the more you cook, the more time you save, because you're doing fundamentally the same thing over and over again on a bigger scale, so you have to do it less. So for example, if you were to cook a lot of pasta, like a big thing of pasta, and be okay with leftovers, then what's going to happen is that you are able to use the whole can of the pasta sauce, for example, or the tomatoes, and just make that all up, have a lot more meat prepared up at one time, and then all your pasta. And then you can take I can't move my computer right now because it might fall, but take a lot of Tupperware and then portion that out throughout the week for you to eat properly, right? So meal prepping and batch cooking are really important, especially if, for example, batch cooking is a way to kind of mix the flavors up a little bit more. It's the ability to reduce on time. So I'll give you an example. Batch cooking is different from meal prep in the sense where meal prep is like you're cooking all the meals and stretching that out through the entire week. I personally can never do that because I get so bored of it. I really don't know how people meal prep. I honestly think like if people meal prep, you're gonna hate what you eat by the end of the week. And again, from a nutrition standpoint, you're losing a lot of nutrients the longer food sits around, right? So if you batch cook, for example, if you take your Instant Pot or just a regular old pot, prepare a ton of rice, you can stretch that out throughout the entire week and do different things with that, but only need to prepare one thing of rice, right? So let's say you're cooking rice, you cook like 5 cups of it, which will last you the entire week. You can now use that rice for different stir fries. Take your frozen vegetables, take the meat, stir fry that together with a little bit of stir fry sauce, some oyster sauce, chili oil, all that kind of stuff. Throw it all together, stir fry it, and then you've got a good, and of course your proteins, and then you've got a good meal, and you just throw it on top of the rice. Then you can also learn how to make fried rice, which is basically leftover rice and the combination of all leftover things with sauces like your oyster sauce, your soy sauce, what have you, and all that kind of stuff. You can do that too. You can also then use the same rice, and for example, if you were to make a curry dish, then you can have different flavors. So you can cook one thing in a big batch and then stretch that throughout the entire week, right? So things like pasta, you can cook in a big batch and have different sauces for it. If you didn't know how to make your sauces, you can have the canned Alfredo sauces, canned tomato sauces, canned whatever kind of sauce, and then have different flavors throughout the week with different vegetables and all that kind of stuff. Meal prepping to me is just pure insanity. I will never be able to do it. Like the idea of cooking one meal and eating it every single day for dinner, get out of here. Like I'm never going to be able to do that. And that's why I can do the same thing and I do the same thing every single day for breakfast, but doing the same thing every single day for dinner, not a fan. Just not a fan of that whatsoever, right? So keep that in mind. There's a difference between meal prep and batch cooking. So I batch cook myself. I cook in large quantities. When you all watch me make that huge thing of pasta, the dough for my streams and my videos, I take that dough and I stretch it out throughout the entire week so that I have either pasta throughout the week or different stir-fried noodles throughout the week or all that kind of stuff because I like noodles more than rice. But if I was to cook rice, then I'd have different kinds of rice dishes that I could do on top of that too. So let's say you had rice and then you also had canned tuna with a little bit of mayo, a little bit of sriracha, and a little bit of sesame oil. You now have like a lot of a sushi kind of flavor type of thing where you have a lot of sushi flavors mixed into that dish at one time. Mix it all up, eat it. It's nice, easy, fast, cheap, shelf sustainable, all that kind of stuff. So consider meal prepping or batch cooking. And the good thing about meal prepping or batch cooking is that you now are able to confidently go into the grocery store, know what you need, buy what you need, cook what you need, and then just carry that out throughout the entire week. Again, like I said, for you, those of you that are not good at cooking, only think about preparing dinner. Don't even think about preparing breakfast or lunch. Do the shortcut stuff. Do overnight oats. Do a breakfast smoothie. You can even do a lunch smoothie if you wanted to, right? But realistically, for lunch, get yourself some deli meats, get yourself some bread, make yourself a sandwich or a wrap or something like that. That's my recommendation to you. By the way, if you were to use kimchi in your sandwich or kimchi in your wrap and all that kind of stuff, boom, you got fusion food. Like, yay, be a part of the problem, culturally appropriate. No, I'm joking, don't do that. But just combine flavors that you like, right? That's what hipsters do. And actually, I love when I go to a hipster restaurant because they have no rules. They see food so differently. They're not segregated like the way I was taught to cook with Italian and French, right? So, like, I'll give you an example. French, and I'm just rambling right now. The French culinary style does not recognize pork broth. Pork broth is delicious. It's so tasty. It's so good. But if you talk to the French purists for the chefs, there's no such thing as pork stock. There is only fish stock, there is chicken stock, or there's beef stock. There's no such thing as pork stock. Don't know why. That's how they do it. But either way, so this is why I promote a lot of Asian foods, and I highlight to people all the time Korean food is one of those foods that is really, really delicious, really easy to cook, beginner friendly, and one of the least expensive culinary cuisines to cook out there. So consider Korean foods if you're new to cooking, want a lot of flavor, and you like the Korean flavor profile. Batch cook a lot of Korean foods, stretch it out through the entire week. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. Like there's stuff like this where, where is this? Here we go. The Korean style vermicelli. You can make cold noodles with it. And I've done this before. It's called japchae. But yeah, you can use these vermicelli noodles, and you can prep them up. You can eat them cold, and it's so delicious. It's one of my favorite things. I think I gotta make this soon because I'm running low, and that means I gotta make it soon. But great way to get a lot of vegetables in there and all that kind of stuff. Think beyond your own culture, because of course, university is that time for experimentation, right? So give that a try. Batch cooking. Reducing food waste. Reducing food waste is so important because you will quickly realize with food waste that you're just throwing away money, right? There's tons of different ways that you can use kitchen scraps. Like if you do buy fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, what I do is I have a Ziploc bag. I take a lot of, like you wash the outside first, and I'll take like the carrot shavings, the carrot peels and all that kind of stuff. I'll put that in a Ziploc bag, I'll put it in the freezer, and once a week, I'll take all the vegetable clippings that I have, I'll boil that down, and then that will be a stock, a vegetable-based stock. So there's a lot of different ways you can make your food, your reduce the amount of food waste, and like that's really, really good because it's from an environmental standpoint, a lot better too. Like I said, you're just throwing away money if you do stuff like that. So reduce down on food waste, learn how to cook, learn how to use food scraps for different kind of purposes. So for example, the eggshells, if you live at home or you're lucky enough to have a garden or rent a house or something like that, you might just want to put them in the compost, feed the earth, put those nutrients back in the soil, all that kind of stuff, right? There's a ton of different ways you can reduce down on food waste, but making sure that you plan your meals ahead of time, making sure you batch cook. This is why I love batch cooking, is because you can cook a lot of the stuff and then stretch it out, right? Usually if you're cooking for one, then you're like, well, what am I going to do with the rest of this celery stock? What am I going to do with this? Like, I've been in so many situations where I'm like, I have this amount of food, but then the recipe only calls for that much, which is why, like, usually I don't cook with a recipe, because I find when you cook with a recipe, there's a lot more food waste. There is a lot more food waste. Don't get me wrong. There's the ability to rely on something, but once you get good at cooking, you're just like, oh, that's just falls under this category. For example, why can't I throw in more vegetables? It's going to throw this off. Yeah, who cares? We're looking to eat better, right? We're looking at nutrition. We're looking at that kind of stuff. So reduce on food waste, learn how to have make use of leftovers in a very, very, very effective way. Like I said, fried rice is one of the best ways to kind of do that kind of thing, because what ends up happening with fried rice is that it's just like everything, all the leftovers, all that kind of stuff, throw it all in one dish, cook it all up, and then eat it. It's awesome. So learn how to make use of better, kind of reduce your food waste, and that'll be good. So that being said, like I said, that is the majority of everything that I wanted to talk about today. We're just going to cook some instant noodles for dinner real quick. We are going to make use of the chicken that I bought from Costco earlier today. We're going to reheat that, throw it on, and then also have the actually, you know what? No. I prepared soy sauce chicken yesterday night for dinner. Nice, fast, and easy. We're just going to reheat 2 of these drumsticks, or 3 of these drumsticks. No, let's do 2. There's 4 left, so let's just do 2. So, I'm just going to reheat 2 of these guys. Throw it in with the favorite thing with ramen. And with an egg. Egg for a little extra protein, and then the vegetable portion of it, we're just going to use, don't call me salad. That's going to be a nice easy dinner that I'm going to cook live on stream. It's going to be awesome because it's one of those dinners that you can cook within I don't know, 10 minutes, 5 minutes or something like that, and then just you're good to go, right? I get it. There's when people aren't good at cooking, or they're not confident with cooking their culinary skills, then it gets a lot harder to want to do these things. But at the end of the day, practice makes better. Practice makes progress, right? So we all want to recognize that from a student's perspective, there's a lot of different strategies that you can use to be healthy, to eat properly, get better grades, get better sports nutrition, get better all that kind of stuff. But I hope you enjoyed what I prepared for you today. I know it seemed a lot, but that's just my ADHD and all that kind of stuff. Wanting to be concise. What I'm hoping to do is chop this stream up into pieces. This is my plastic fork. No, I'm joking. Chop this stream up into pieces so that I can cut this together into one whole cohesive video, which is what a friend of mine, Joe, mentioned and suggested the other day. So thank you very, very much to him. So I'm probably going to do that with this stream and make it to be a little bit more concise of a YouTube video. I was going to figure out how to download the stuff off YouTube and how to go from there. But yeah, right now, this is, like I said, this is not a cooking stream today because I am just going to make instant noodles for myself. I'm not going to lie, I'm so excited about this. I love instant noodles. They're my favorite thing in the world. So, you know, not even going to pretend for a second to be like, oh, I'm a food snob. I'm this and that. I like to cook fancy foods, but that's because when I cook, I like to cook for people I love and all that kind of stuff, and I'm just cooking for myself. I'm lazy. I make shortcuts. I make all these kind of stuff, right? So tonight I am cooking for myself, and of course I'm illustrating point on stream. So the vegetables are already done. I'm gonna boil the noodles. We're gonna cook the egg. The drumsticks are already done too. And again, that was because I batch cooked that last night. I had a ton of drumsticks that I defrosted, and so just cooked them in soy sauce. We'll have a soy sauce chicken recipe up in a little bit once I start doing like those kind of videos. But for now, I'm just doing this. This is already half done. I can't believe the boiling water is probably the thing that's going to take the longest right now, but once that's boiled, that's pretty much good, right? So yeah, again, from a anti-cooking snob perspective, use scissors in your cooking much more. It's going to be a lot easier. You won't need a cutting board, all that kind of stuff. It works out really well. And remember, you're just trying to learn how to adult right now. We're not trying to be perfect. We're just trying to get you fed, teach you different tips on how to stretch your dollar a little bit more, do all that kind of stuff. So, you know, let me know what you think. I see 3 people watching right now. Any comments, any strategies on how you like to save money from a budget-friendly standpoint? You know, there's a lot to consider here. Everyone's kind of down in the dumps with, you know, budgets and food, and everything's going to crap. I get that. So share any kind of tips and tricks you have kind of below. And while the water boils for my instant noodles, just being real with everyone today, because it's, again, this is a stream. This month is all for students. I don't know what next month is. Next week. I don't know what next week is from the theme standpoint. I forgot to do the Instagram post like I said I was going to do on stream last week. Whoopsie. You know, it's probably going to put one up later this week. Got busy with work. Work has been good recently. Got a lot more clients to see, a lot more people, like, you know, looking to boost up their nutrition, boost up their knowledge, and get some working on some health goals. So if you're one of those people, shoot me an email. You see the website down below. Nope, down below this way. www.evolvesportnutrition.com. Glad I was able to take care of this stream. The white bars on the side were really starting to bug me. Finally got a chance to take care of it, so that's really good. And yeah, we're just gonna wait around till I'm done boiling the water. Throw the egg in there. Oh, speak of the devil. The water is boiling. I don't need to show you that. I'm just gonna crack the egg in. Give myself a little bit more protein, and I love eggs with ramen noodles. I'm gonna throw in the noodle here. And that's only gonna take like 2 or 3 minutes, because I like my ramen to have a little bit of al dente-ness to it. So I'm gonna cup up the soup packet. Now, here's the reality. I'm gonna put the whole thing in because I'm hardcore and I like the flavor. You might not like flavor. You might have sodium issues. You might have, I'm worried about like having that much salt and all that kind of stuff. Because objectively, yeah, it's a crap ton of salt. But if you're an athlete, I always say if you're an athlete, you don't need a sodium restriction. So if you're physically active and all that kind of stuff, now assuming you don't have like hypertension or anything like that. So I would put the whole package in. But let's say you don't want that much sodium in your diet for whatever reason. Only use half of it then. Not a big deal. If you've seen how instant noodles are actually prepared, you won't think so negatively of the soup packet that I just put in. So, I'm not gonna lie, this might be like the stream that I've cooked the least on, but most excited to eat for dinner. Because like I said, I just love instant noodles so much. So good. A little spoon. Mix up the noodles. It's pretty much done already. And then after this, I am going to watch The Caped Crusader, which is a brand new animated Batman show on Amazon Prime. My friend Daniel and I, we are going to be reviewing that on Spoiled Rotten, our podcast, which we've had running for multiple years now. I love that thing. I love doing it. So if you haven't heard enough of my voice, go check out Spoiled Rotten. It's a really, really good podcast. I really, really enjoy it. I can't wait for this Friday to record with him. And I'm going to watch a few more episodes later tonight. I'm doing this thing where if a streaming platform releases all the episodes all at one time, I like to watch 2 or 3 and then just stop so that I have something to look forward to the next night, next night, next night, and all that kind of stuff. I do not like binge watching anymore. I think binge watching takes away from the overall experience of the show for myself, largely because I don't absorb as much information if I binge it. I start to get into the zone where I'm like dead space. My ADHD is going crazy. I'm looking at my phone. I'm checking Instagram. I'm doing all that kind of stuff. I'm playing phone games on it. So, personally, I prefer, much prefer watching a few episodes at a time. So I'm at episode 6, I think it was. Yeah, I'm having a great time with the show. It reminds me a lot of the Batman animated series back in the 90s. The one with, I can't remember his name. He passed away, and it's really, really sad. He's one of the best Batman voices ever, alongside Mark Hamill as the Joker. God, I feel so dumb right now, but sorry, my brain has always, it was just in nutrition mode for this, prepping for this stream. Didn't want to come off as stupid, even though I usually am. Okay. So that's done. Water's boiled. Noodles are cooked. It's instant for a reason, right? And this is, again, this is one of the things about nutrition, is that fed is best. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be this. So don't come at me in the comments about like, oh, there's so much sodium, there's so much this. I don't care. It's delicious, and I love it. And I am the dietitian here. I get to do whatever I want and call it healthy. That's the rule. As a dietitian, you don't get many abilities to abuse your power. So for me, I just cook things that people online, health influencers and all that kind of stuff, will be like, oh, that's unhealthy, I can't believe you're doing that. And then be like, well, I'm the dietitian, so I get to tell you whether or not it's healthy. And right now, I'm just showing you all, the college student, how easy you can turn a packet of instant noodles into something actually that meets all your nutrition kind of goals, right? So you have the noodles that are obviously the carbohydrate. We have the egg and the 2 drumsticks as the protein. source. And then we also have the wakame salad. So I'm just going to take a quick picture of this and post it onto Insta. And hopefully next week I will see you all again. It's funny because I've been streaming this for about an hour and a half. And it's funny the idea that it took an hour and a half to prepare instant noodles. All right. So, that being said, I'm going to eat this right now. This is black garlic flavored. It's a nicer one of that because, of course, not all instant noodles are made the same. There's a ton of different flavors, ton of different variety. My favorite is Nongshim. The Nongshim brand, which is a Korean brand of spicy seafood flavored and all that kind of stuff. That is my favorite brand. This is really, really good too because it's got the black garlic oil packet, which makes it really, really, really tasty and smells really, really good. Kind of like the sesame oil kind of stuff, right? Well, here we go. Mmm. So good. Love it. Wakame salad, again, nice, easy prepared, long shelf life. So good. Anyways, that's it for today's stream. Please like, please subscribe, hit the notification icon. I will be back next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time live. And I promise this time I'm posting on Instagram to tell you what next week's theme is going to be. I forget right now. It's been a long day. Anyways, I'm going to eat the rest of this. I'm going to watch Batman, and I am going to be an adult. Have yourself a wonderful evening, and I will see you all next week. And, also, I have started my training vlog videos. I uploaded the first episode Monday. I plan to upload them on Sundays. This week, though, I uploaded on Monday because, I'll be honest with you, was hungover for the most of the weekend. I drank on Friday, and my hangovers last 48 hours now. Don't like it. So, in that video, you will see me actually doing a distance run. I feel rough during it. It's because I was hungover, not gonna lie. This week is gonna be much, much better. No parties, no birthday parties on the docket. Nothing like that. But yeah, me and alcohol, no bueno, not friends, not cool anymore. Anyways, y'all have a good night. Thank you for watching. Watch that training vlog video. It's my road to the TCS half marathon. And we'll see you in the next one. And see you possibly on Sunday. Cheers! Please like and subscribe.